Okay, so welcome in, especially to those people who are watching this recording. You can go ahead and move up to the 10-minute mark. We're going to be practicing some meditation, continuing our reading of Zen Master Empty Cloud's teachings. And we will start in just about 10 minutes. Hi, Sila and Karuna. That is correct, SP Nathan. These are the teachings of Master Zhu Yun, more commonly known in the West as Empty Cloud. Welcome, David and Anushka and Morgan, Anna, Kai, Kang. Glad that you're all able to be here. Hope you're in good health and good spirits. We can start listening to our bodies. Start listening to our mind at this moment. Finding a comfortable position to be in. And allowing ourselves this moment to touch stillness, to touch awareness itself. As we focus on our breath, we can start to become more and more aware of the body, the presence of the body at this moment. Beginning to notice and experience what it's like to have a body at this moment. The past and the future may have contained in them, or we expect to contain in them, some kind of difficulty, some kind of confusion. But right now, at this moment, being aware of no difficulty, being aware of no confusion.
Hey, what's good?
Just settling in, calming down. With each breath becoming more and more still, more and more aware of the body. Breathing in, finding a sense of being home, being safe in this awareness of the body. Existing not through thinking or doing, but existing through being. Just being here at this moment. Putting down thinking, putting down thought, putting down story, letting the mind settle in just being, breathing, aware of the body. To give up, to let go completely. Just breathing and being aware. no longer holding on to anyone or anything, just breathing and being aware, letting go completely, giving up, giving away completely any struggle, any sense of a fixed you. Finding the you, finding the truth in this moment, in this breath, in the looking, in the noticing, not that which is seen. The seeing is real. That which is seen is not. Stay with the seeing. Relax, refresh, restart. Simple and clear. The seeing is real. That which is seen is not. Just seeing, just breathing, just being aware. We can feel a sense of appreciation, a sense of gratitude for this moment, this breath, this body, this seeing. If our eyes are closed, we can begin to open them. And we will continue with our reading of the teachings from Zen Master Empty Cloud. And you won't necessarily need to use your eyes during this practice, so if you want to have them closed, it's okay. If you want to continue your practice in that way. Recently, these past few days, we've been opening with a verse from the Pali Canon, very traditional stories from the Buddha. So we'll do that again today. And this story is entitled Reaching. At Savatthi, where the Buddha often stayed, standing to one side, that Devata, that high being, recited this verse in the presence of the Blessed One. Life is swept along. Short is the lifespan. No shelters exist for one who has reached old age. Seeing clearly this danger in death, one should do deeds of merit that bring happiness. Life is swept along. Short is the lifespan. No shelters exist for one who has reached old age. Seeing clearly this danger in death, a seeker of peace should drop the world's bait. And there's a story from the text the chapter that we finished up with yesterday that I like to reread because it's such a kind of funny but also profound teaching, little story here. In China, we call a cut of meat pure meat. It is not mixed up with other ingredients, as, for example, a sausage is. Sometimes pure meat means the best cut of meat. People always tell the butcher that's what they want. Pure or prime meat. There was once a woman who was considering the Huatou, who has Buddha nature. Every day she had to pass a butcher shop on her way to work. She always heard people clamoring for pure meat, but she never paid them much attention. One day a woman was buying meat, and according to custom, she insisted that the butcher give her only pure meat. That was what she cried out. Give me only pure meat. Her insistence particularly irritated the butcher, and he shouted, "Which piece is not pure?" The woman heard this angry shout, and she suddenly realized that all the meat is pure meat. That is to say, everyone contains the pure Buddha nature. Who has Buddha nature? Ha! Who does not have Buddha nature? And this also is applying to each and every moment, each and every sensation. Oh, what do I do now? What's the best thing to do? Well, you don't need to worry about it because it's all pure meat. It's all this Buddha mind moment. So you can sit down and experience your Buddha mind, or you can go for a walk, or you can do whatever you're doing with this awareness that it's all pure meat. It's all Buddha. The woman attained enlightenment in that very instant. She got so excited, she hopped and jumped and kept on saying, "Which piece is not pure? Aha! Which piece is not pure?" Over and over again. Which piece is not pure? This craziness we call Chan disease, Zen disease. It doesn't last very long, maybe only a few days before the victim calms down. But it is a wonderful disease to catch. Fortunately, there is no medicine to cure it. So there's no cure for enlightenment experiences. You can't get rid of them, luckily. So yesterday we finished the We're on the eighth path, the eighth fold of the eightfold path, which is this right meditation. And we just went through the first part of this path. One of the methods of meditation that Master Empty Cloud brought up, and that was a huato, or a head question. Who am I? What is this? Which piece of meat is not pure? And now we're going to read the section on meditation on sound. Before beginning this instruction, it is important, I think, to understand the difference Before beginning this instruction, it is important, I think, to understand the difference between host and guest. In the Shuragama Sutra, which is a very traditional kind of special sutra in Mahayana Buddhism, Arya Anjarakundinya asks, what is the difference between settled and transient? He answers by giving the example of a traveler who stops at an inn. The traveler dines and sleeps and then continues on his way. He doesn't stop and settle there at the inn. He just pays his bill and departs, resuming his journey. But what about the innkeeper? He doesn't go anywhere. He continues to reside at the inn because that is where he lives. I say, therefore, that the transient is the guest and the innkeeper is the host, says Arya. And so we identify the ego's myriad thoughts which rise and fall in the stream of consciousness as transients, travelers who come and go and who should not be detained with discursive examinations. So, guest and host, transient and settled. And so, we identify the ego's, the small self's, many thoughts, myriad complicated thoughts and distractions, which rise and fall in the stream of consciousness as transients, as visitors that don't stay around. These thoughts, these preferences, these judgments, these likes and dislikes. We identify these myriad thoughts which rise and fall in the stream of consciousness as transients, travelers who come and go and who should not be detained with discursive examinations. So here, not really to psychoanalyze each and every thought. Well, what about this thought? What about that thought? How am I going to really work this out? They're just temporary visitors and should not be detained with discursive, complicated, in-depth examinations. Our Buddha self is the host who lets the travelers pass without any hindrance, any bother. A good host does not detain their guests with idle chatter when they are ready to depart. So we don't keep digging into the mud of our mind and our experiences to bring up again past thoughts and past judgments. A good host does not detain their guests with idle chatter when they are ready to depart. So as our thoughts and experiences and distractions, even our good ones, we think always that meditating, we want to have this peaceful, powerful, mountaintop, meditator, Italian fireplace experience, right? But even those experiences, we don't hang on to them. We don't like, oh wow, that was great. I'm starting to get it. We just let go of those experiences and we move on. The experiences that you can't shake off, these enlightenment experiences, those are uncurable. So you don't really have to worry about those. You don't have to try to get rid of those. It's the same principle that applies here. It's the same exact principle. A good host does not detain their guests to keep them longer, and also does not try to push them out to get them to go before they're ready. It's not easy to be a good host, but we certainly are able to do it. It's possible to do it. Therefore, just as the host does not pack up and leave with his guests, we should not follow our transient thoughts. We should simply let them pass unobstructed. Many people strive to empty their mind of all thoughts. This is their meditation practice. They try not to think. So, this is a very important point to look at here, to listen to very, very closely here. Many people struggle to empty their mind of all thoughts. This is their meditation practice. They try not to think. They think and think, I will not think. This is a very difficult technique and one that is not recommended for beginners. Actually, the state of no mind that they seek is an advanced spiritual state. There are many spiritual states that must precede it. Okay, so imagine that. You've got people who are just generally interested in meditation, live very hectic, confused lives. They don't have connections or relationships with experienced teachers. They haven't studied meditation or any kind of meditation teachings. And yet, the idea that they have in their mind is, I want to empty my mind. And I hear this all the time from people. I can't empty my mind. I can't get my mind to be quiet. Yeah, that's right. You can't. Yeah, and if you try to practice in trying to empty your mind, you're just going to look foolish and you're going to act foolish. Because that state of no mind, as it says here, is actually an advanced spiritual state. It's not something that we just, okay, well, I want to meditate and now we're going to empty our minds. It doesn't work like that. It's an ignorant approach to meditation. It's not realistic. And we don't need to empty our mind. We need to be a good host so that thoughts come up. We meet thoughts, we meet experiences. We have a morning meditation here at the temple. It's quite early. Sometimes we're the first thing we're doing is waking up and we're going to the meditation hall. So immediately we're cold, the body is a little bit uncomfortable, the mind isn't falling into advanced spiritual states, and so we're kind of, what the heck's going on here? Why am I doing this? What am I supposed to be doing? This is difficult. But in fact, our practice, our job at that time, when we meditate, is to be a good host. All kinds of visitors are going to be coming through: sounds, sights, physical sensations, you name it. Bad memories, good memories, fantasies, all kinds of things are going to be coming through and passing away. So, our practice in meditation is to be a good host, a sincere host, a magnanimous, kind of open hearted, open minded host. not to get rid of those thoughts and those sensations. And we also have to, some people know what they're talking about when it comes to meditation and when it comes to spirituality. So if we're just so we have this big heavy rock in our brain that, well, I get it, I know what I'm going to do, and that's it. And then when we hear something that's kind of outside of that realm, we just reject it. We just push it away. And we totally miss out on actually growing, actually learning, actually developing. This teacher here, Empty Cloud, he lived to be, some say, 120 years old. He lived almost 100 years of his life as a monk, and a real monk, like the fantasy of a monk, the most romantic idea of a monk, living in the mountains, practicing meditation constantly, living in silence, being in solitary retreat, living a pure life of pure conduct. So these teachings aren't just, kind of, well, I think it's this way. Totally different scale of wisdom here that we're working with, and we have to appreciate that. For the material world, it's so easy for us to appreciate that. We see someone driving a BMW. We're not in doubt about that. We're not we're very confident that they have a BMW and we do not. They're driving a BMW, we are not. Or someone's, lifting up 1,000 pounds. You're not lifting up 1,000 pounds, and you can't do that. The same applies to these spiritual states, to development in meditation. Okay? So we have to have some humbleness and appreciation for these kinds of teachings. So I'll just read this part again because it's quite clear. So guest and host. I say, therefore, that the transient is the guest and the innkeeper is the host. So the traveler is the guest, and the innkeeper who stays at the inn is the host. And so we identify the ego's myriad thoughts, judgments, preferences, which rise and fall in the stream of consciousness as transients, as ever changing phenomena, travelers who come and go, and who should, as we identify those thoughts which rise and fall as transients, travelers, who come and go, and who should not be detained with discursive examinations, complicated examinations, more judgments. Our Buddha self, our peace mind, our seeing is real, that which is seen is not mind, is the host who lets the travelers pass without hindrance, without bother. A good host does not detain their guests with idle chatter when they are ready to depart. Therefore, just as the host does not pack up and leave with their guests, we should not follow our transient thoughts. We should simply let them pass unobstructed. Therefore, just as the host does not pack up and leave with their guests, we should not follow our transient thoughts. We should simply let them pass unobstructed. Many people strive to empty their mind of all thoughts. This is their meditation practice. They try not to think. They think and think, I will not think. This is a very difficult technique, and one that is not recommended for beginners. Actually, the state of no mind that they seek is an advanced spiritual state. There are many spiritual states that must precede it. Progress in Chan, progress in Zen, is rather like trying to climb a high mountain. We start at the bottom. What is our destination? not the summit, but merely our base camp, Camp 1. After we have rested there, we resume our ascent. But again, our destination is not the summit, but merely Camp 2. We attempt the summit only from our final camp. Nobody would dream of trying to scale Mount Everest in one quick ascent. And the summit of Chan, the summit of Zen, the summit of enlightenment, is higher than Everest's. Think about that, imagine that this enlightenment, this Zen mind, and to some degree this no mind, this mind of no thinking, is a summit higher than Everest. You're not going to put on your walking shoes and your jacket and put your hair up into a bun and put on a wool hat and go and walk up Everest. Not going to happen, for sure. So when we approach the spiritual path, especially when we're doing work to heal and to develop more wisdom and to develop more peace, we really have to be prepared. We have to have a support team, and we need to be careful about what we're shooting for. We think we're shooting for final enlightenment when we haven't even reached Camp 1, when we haven't even reached to live an ethical life, to live a moral life, to discipline our speech, our actions, our thoughts. So all of that is quite important. So nobody would dream of trying to scale Mount Everest in one quick ascent. And the summit of Chan is higher than Everest's. Yet in Chan, in Zen, everybody wants to start at the end. Nobody wants to start at the beginning. If beginners could take an airplane to the top, they would. But then this would not be mountain climbing, would it? Enthusiasm for the achievement is what makes people try to take shortcuts, but the journey is the real achievement. And this also is an answer to a lot of questions about psychedelics. People have a very special experience on psychedelics, and they think that's a kind of enlightenment or a special experience. But in fact, here the teacher is saying very clearly that the journey is the real achievement. The journey is the real achievement. A better way than deliberately trying to blank the mind by preventing thoughts from arising is to meditate on sound. In this method, we calmly sit and let whatever sounds we hear pass in one ear and out the other, so to speak. We are like good innkeepers who do not hinder guest thoughts with discursive chatter. If we hear a car honk its horn, we merely record that noise without saying to ourselves, "That horn sounds like Mr. Wang's Bentley. I wonder where he's going." Or if we hear a child shouting outside, we just let the shout pass through our mind without saying, "Oh, that noisy boy. I wish his mother would teach him better manners." In some styles of Zen, it is the custom to strike someone with a stick if he begins to show signs of sleepiness. Up and down the aisles patrols a fellow with a stick. No one is allowed to move or make any breathing noises, or heaven forbid, to nod sleepily. The fellow with the stick will strike him. This is foolish, and in truth, violates the first precept of nonviolence. What should we do when an elderly nun or priest begins to slumber in the meditation hall? Should we strike them with a stick? Are we confusing laziness with sleepiness? Perhaps the sleepy person has been up most of the night tending to the sick. Should we punish them if, in their exhaustion, they begin to drift into sleep? No. We should offer them some strong tea. If they want to perk up, they drink the tea. But if they take a little cat nap, we should let them rest. Perhaps a person's noisy breathing or restlessness is actually a symptom of illness. Should we punish the sick person and add to their discomfort? No, this is not the Zen way. What should we do once, of course, we are sure that this noisiness has not arisen from fatigue or illness? We should use the sound of their breathing or their movements as we would use the sound of an auto's horn or a child's shout. We should just register the noise without thinking about it at all. We should not let our ego get involved in the noise. Just let it pass through our minds unhindered like a guest at an inn. A guest enters and departs. We don't rummage through the guest's belongings. We don't detain them with gossip or idle chatter. You know, the Buddha once asked Manjushri to choose between the different methods of attaining enlightenment. Which was the best? He asked. Manjushri easily chose Avalokiteshvara's Bodhisattva's method of using the faculty of hearing as the best. Always remember that when meditating on sound, it is essential to remove the ego from the listening process and to let the non judgmental Buddha self record the sounds that enter our ears. In whatever place we do this, we make that place a Bodhi Mandala, a sacred place in which enlightenment may be obtained. So, listening to sound without judgment. We do not need to be in a meditation hall to practice this technique. Every day, in all of our ordinary activities, wherever we happen to be, we can practice it. We shouldn't try to limit our practice of Zen to those times in which we are in a Zen meditation hall. In fact, the function of a meditation hall is really only to provide a place of minimal distraction for those people who have difficulty in keeping their attention focused on what they are doing. Sometimes people like to go to meditation halls because they need to be forced to meditate. They won't practice at home alone. Why should a person have to be forced to have a beautiful experience? How foolish is this? Sometimes people go to meditation halls because they want to meet friends there. This is a misuse of Zen. It is converting Zen from a path to enlightenment into just another dead end, samsaric trail. And isn't that a pity? Anyone have maybe a question or something to share about what we've read so far? The guest and the host, the innkeeper and the traveler, the prospect of non judgmental listening to create a possibility for enlightenment, just listening, just being aware.
a frog or something trying to cross a river, and there are many objects that aren't, so you have to avoid it. But you cannot make those objects to stop passing by. So it's the same when with our thoughts. We cannot just make them stop. We just need to let them pass by, right?
Well, there's no stopping thoughts. There's no forcing thoughts to stop. They arise and they pass away. The very nature of you being aware of them, the very nature of them arising, um, is not separate from the nature of them passing away. So the analogy is all right of the hopper, the frog game, as long as you understand that the frog and the cars and the road is made up of fog, steam. So it's more about non-interference. And as the frog is jumping, it's going to get hit. You don't have to avoid anything. And so at that point of the frog, this illusory self that you have jumping along, and thoughts or situations or sensations hitting, driving into that frog, at that meeting of steam and particles, to be a good host, to be someone who doesn't try to hold on to the steam of that car that ran into you, um, and lets it depart freely. And in that situation, you're the host because you're the keeper of this inn. You're the one who's taking care of this body. And even though this body is made up of steam that just happens to be here temporarily, you are the caretaker of that. So you are the host. And those thoughts, those cars, those interactions, those coming about, arising of experiences, are guests that are only there temporarily. And on a deeper way, you are the Buddha self. You are the real host, the true host, which is your awareness itself, your noticing itself. The seeing is real, but that which is seen is not. So, guest, host, innkeeper, traveler, just listening, non-judgmental, non-conceptual, listening to sound as it is. That is a meditation on sound. So let's all take a moment to adjust our posture. We can find our meditation position again. So for these final few moments together, we can practice being a good host to those thoughts, sensations, sounds that we hear, just to be aware of them, just to notice them and allow those thoughts to arise and pass away without interference, without struggle, without overburdening our guests with discursive examinations or judgments, but just let sensations of the body, just let thoughts, mental formations arise, be there, and pass away. Just breathing, just being aware. Breathing deeply and experiencing only, experiencing directly. The seeing is real. That which is seen is not. Simply allowing those thoughts to come up, to visit, and to pass away freely. Those thoughts, sensations, experiences of the mind and body, just a temporary visitor coming up, being experienced, and passing away. Don't chase the visitor outside the door. Don't try to make the visitor leave or go away. Don't try to keep the visitor there. Just breathing and being aware, non-judgmental, allowing thoughts to arise and passing away just as they are. Sometimes we have a guest that is difficult and won't go away. So simply being patient, kind, simple, gentle. Don't think about it too much. Don't examine it with thoughts or thinking too much. Just breathing and being aware. Remembering that the seeing is real. That which is seen is not. At this time, we can all bring our hands together. And to finish our gathering, our group meditation and study, we will chant sadhu 3 times together, okay? Sadhu. 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 All right. Thank you, everyone, very much for joining, practicing meditation together. Quite a joy. We will have our it'll be evening here in Italy, but it'll be 2 p.m. New York time later on today in about 5 hours. So you're invited to join us for that. And until then, take a good care of your life. And remember, this is not a quote from me. I don't remember what monk it's a quote from, but remembering this teaching, the seeing is real. That which is seen is not. Okay? Take care, everyone. See you again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Salut.